Estimate for India indicate rising temperatures, sea level, intensified rainfall, and more, catastrophic events. Conservation and wise use of wide diversity of inland and coastal wetland can be a powerful climate change response. So, however, according to the Global Wetland Outlook by the Ramsar Convention, wetland, one of the world's most economically valuable ecosystem and regulators of the global climate. So it's been disappearing 3 times faster than forest. So yet, while a lot is known about their importance, the utility of wetland is not fully understood. So, what do we need to know about wetlands? So, wetlands are areas where water is the primary factor controlling the environment and the associated plant and animal life. They occur where the water table is at or near the surface of the land, or where the land is covered by water. Actually, they are the land, transitional between terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem, where the water table is usually at or near the surface, or the land is covered by shallow water. As per recent estimates, so wetland of at least 2.25 and in size make up of 4.86% of the country's geographical area. So why are wetlands significant? So assist in fighting against climate change, a wetland assist in establishing carbon dioxide and methane CH4 and N2O nitrous oxide and greenhouse gases, it's CHG. So its concentration by minimizing climate and land use medicated, it's mediated GHG releases, and by boosting the potential to activity collect CO2, means carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and sequester carbon. Wetland also help reduce the risk of disasters such as floods by protecting coastlines. Sequestered carbon, if I'm talking about that, wetland microbes, plant and wildlife are part of global cycle for water, and it's nitrogen and sulfur. So wetland store carbon within their plant communities and soil instead of releasing it to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Salt marshes and mangrove swamps, it's known to accumulate soil vertically. Significance of peatlands. The term peatland refers to the peat soil and the wetland habitats growing on the surface. They account for just 3% of the world's land surface, but store twice as much carbon as forest. So, thus playing a crucial role in delivering global commitments on the climate crisis, sustainable development and biodiversity. If I'm talking about a peatland, so one of the world's largest carbon reserve are sparse in India, and it's require immediate attention. So paradise for migratory birds. So million of migratory birds flock to India, and wetland are critical to this annual phenomenon. It's ecologically dependent on wetland. So migratory water world connect continents, hemispheres, culture and societies through their seasonal movements. A diversity of wetland communities, it's offer essential, stopovers for birds. So cultural and tourism importance, if I'm talking about that, a wetland also have a deep connection with India culture and traditions. Like we can see Loktak Lake in Manipur is revered as Ima, Ima means mother by locals. Whereas Sikkim, Sikkim, we can see the places Sikkim, Kachiopelri Lake. It's popular as the wish fulfilling lake. So the northern Indian festival at Chhath is one of the most unique expression of the association of people, culture, water and wetland. The Dal Lake in Kashmir, Khajjar Lake in Himachal Pradesh, Nainital Lake in Uttarakhand and Kodia Canal in Tamil Nadu. It's all about, all are popular tourism destination. So what initiatives have been taken to protect wetlands? This is the major question of our discussion today. So if we see at global level, so Ramsar Convention, the convention envisages the conservation and wise use of all wetland through local and national action and international cooperation. It's as a contribution towards achieving sustainable development throughout the world. It came into force in 1975. And Montreux record, it is a register of wetland site on the list of a wetland of international importance, where changes in ecological character have occurred. And it's occurring or are likely to occur as a result of technological developments and in pollution or other human interferences also. So it is maintained as a part of the Ramsar list. Like World Wetland Day, it is celebrated every year, as we know, on the 2nd February across the globe. So this day marks the date of the adoption of the Convention on Wetland on 2nd February 1971, and it's in Iranian city of Ramsar. And on World Wetland Day 2022, two new Ramsar sites is there, like Khijadia Wildlife Sanctuary in Gujarat and Bakhira Wildlife Sanctuary in UP. So it was announced in India. And if we see on a national level, the statutory protection in India, the wetland, it's regulated under the Wetland Conservation and Management Rules of 2017. So the 2010 version of the rules provided for a canal wetland regulatory authority, but new rules of 2017 replaced it with state level bodies and created a national wetland committee, and which function in an advisory role. So that's the thing. And if I'm talking about the action plans, so Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, it's this support the implementation of management action plan for over 250 wetland under a scheme, such as a national plan for conservation of aquatic ecosystem, So mangroves and coral reefs and integrated development of wildlife habitats. And towards her commitment under the Ramsar Convention, India has designated 49 Ramsar sites, and it's likely to expand the list to 75 wetland. Question is, what are the threats to wetlands? So human activities, major causes human activities as per the IPBES, Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. So global assessment, wetland are the most threatened ecosystem due to human activities and global warming. The National Wetland Decadal Change Atlas recently published by the Space Application Center. It's indicate declining natural coastal wetland. We can say it's reducing from 3.69 million hectare to 3.62 million hectare in the last decade. Second is urbanization. As we know, wetlands near urban centers are under increasing development pressure for residential, industrial and commercial facilities. So areas surrounded by urbanized wetland are expected to lead to a coastal squeeze in the face of sea level rise, ultimately leading to wetland loss. Third is climate changes. As we know nowadays, climate change and link driver and pressure are highly likely to increase vulnerability of wetland. It's increased air temperatures, shift in precipitation. So it's precipitation, increased frequency of storms, droughts and floods. It's increased atmosphere carbon dioxide concentration, and sea level rise could also affect wetlands. And next is maladaptation. So maladaptation, wetlands are also exposed to the risk of maladaptation and the likelihood of adverse impact on these ecosystems in response to adoption action in other sectors. We can understand this through an example. For example, the construction of a hydraulic structure to increase freshwater storage in upstream stretches, and it may further accentuate the risk of salinization in downstream coastal wetlands. So what will be the impact of degrading wetlands? What are the impact of degrading wetland? Both the question in front of us. So degradation of wetland diminishes a landscape capability to absorb and moderate floods, droughts and storm surges. Like floods in Kashmir Valley in September 2014 and in Chennai in December 2015. So it's illustrated how wetland degradation can threaten lives. According to UNESCO, the threat to wetland will have an adverse impact on 40% of the world's flora and fauna that live or breed in wetlands. What should be the way forward? So like integration of wetland in policies, India's emission pledges at the Glasgow summit include a net zero emission by 2070. So it's reducing carbon emissions by 1 million tons and reducing the carbon intensity of the economy to less than 45%. and including wetland blue carbon can assist towards this goal, which is presently overlooked in absence of systematic wetland carbon and inventories integrating wetland conservation and wise use into disaster risk reduction policy and programs provide cost effective and no regret options. And it is also essential to ensure that conservation action is not led by the role of wetland in carbon cycles alone. Instead, takes into account the full range of ecosystem services and biodiversity. So it's the values of these ecosystems, that's the main thing. And tackling CHG emissions from wetlands, it is very much important. It is essential to have an effective management strategy for preventing increase in CHG emission from wetlands. So first step in this direction would be to include carbon storage and CHG emissions from wetland within the national carbon stock and flux assessment. A detailed peatland inventory is also much needed. Secondly, climate risk need to be factored in wetland management. So this can be done by strengthening wetland monitoring system geared towards identification of climate risk indicators and trends thereof. If I'm talking about the effective management of a wetland, so to counter unplanned urbanization and growing population, management of wetland has to be an integrated approach in terms of planning, execution and monitoring effective collaboration among accommodations and professionals. It's including ecologist, watershed management specialist, planner and decision makers for overall management of wetlands. So spreading awareness by initiating awareness program about the importance of a wetland and constant monitoring of wetland for their water quality would provide vital inputs to safeguard the wetland from further deterioration. So this was the important discussion on climate. Thanks for watching.